Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Bret.
And welcome back to BretandMike.com. Bret, we're in section 3. We're talking about customization of the Windows 8 8.1 operating system.
And realistically, we could probably spend the next 3 hours talking about customization because there's a lot of areas that you can do.
There's a whole lot. But
yeah, we talked about that. We actually talked about that in section 2 where we showed some of the ways you could customize the start screen. But let's go a little bit deeper.
Well, you know, one of the things that you mentioned, or I mentioned, was the fact that people can actually boot to desktop. And I pointed out, you don't want to just skip over that modern UI. Give it a try, and I really think you'll appreciate it. But the best part is, you can flip back and forth real easy. I'm using the Windows key on the keyboard, and you can see, just by hitting on, off, I can toggle back and forth, make a little disco effect.
Absolutely. Or you can go ahead and hit the desktop tile and bounce back with the Windows key. So you can get back and forth to the desktop pretty easily.
But if users just are adamant that they want to, when they start their computer, as soon as they boot, they want to go into that desktop mode, how would you set that up?
Well, it's actually very easy. It's just not real easy to find. Now, also keep in mind, so you're not pulling your hair out, this is a Windows 8.1 only feature. You will not find this in Windows 8. It's Windows 8.1 only.
So feature add.
So let's go ahead and click out. You can update your install later, but for now we're going to right click here and go to Properties, and let's see what we have. So a box popped up, hopefully you can see that, and you see a number of choices here. Tabs, we'll go to Navigation, and down here there's 2 key boxes to point out. One is exactly what we're talking about here. If I click this one that says when I sign in or close all apps on a screen, go to the desktop and instead of start. Okay, so that will make sure that we'll go to the desktop. We'll bounce to the desktop every time.
So when I check that, if I were to say OK and I rebooted, the next time I rebooted, it would boot to desktop
right to
and
bypass
bypass that metro
Absolutely.
screen. Doesn't take it away. I can still get there with the Windows key, right? Or I
No,
can still use
that's
the button
true.
at the corner. But it's which one do you prefer? Which one will it start on?
It will bypass the modern UI and go straight to the start screen.
And then there's this. You were going to show us show my desktop background on start.
And this is another thing. It's a little trifle, but it does make some people feel a little more comfortable. So see the desktop background right here. If I hit the start button, that background is still persistent.
Ooh.
So it's kind of a comfort level thing. They could say, okay, my desktop is just behind this start screen. When I pop, there it is.
And do you know why? One of the big features, Microsoft listened to users who said that they like the modern UI, but oftentimes the contrast between the colors of the modern UI and the colors of the desktop were so radical. You saw with us, it was purple on the modern UI or blue, and then it jumps to this bright yellow. Some people like that. Some people found it very distracting and glaring.
Well, the other thing is let's face it, one of the chief ways that people personalize their computers at work is by putting pictures of loved ones or what have you on that desktop background. So with the start screen, it took that option away. But with this, we can sort of put a transparency between the start screen and that desktop wallpaper.
And we can still
there's
see it.
effective
And it looks
there.
nice. It gives me a little more consistency across both of those interfaces. And you see it's just a simple click. Turn it on, turn it off. So those options are there. If I go back to desktop, if I wanted to take those off, again, I could click and hold, or as you pointed out.
Yeah, actually,
right
if you
mouse
just
click.
go down and you can write, you can
We're
click and
fighting over the
hold,
mouse.
but we'll go ahead and hit Properties, and again, that is in the Navigation tab. So I'll select that, and again, sometimes these aren't very easy to hit with the little touchpad, but let's go ahead and uncheck.
And notice too, while he's unchecking these, there's a bunch of other options. We don't have time to go into every single option, but boy, you can really customize this thing.
You really
Windows
can.
PowerShell, you can do all kinds of features and functions all available through there.
Absolutely.
So we got a boot to desktop, we got that. I noticed when I'm on this screen here, I see up in the right-hand corner Katie Jordan, and that's just a demo account that we use, and there's her face
So
right there.
this is not her tablet that you swiped?
This is not her tablet that I swiped.
Okay.
But if I needed to, I can click on Katie, and you can see that I have multiple accounts set up here. One is this Mike O, and one is Robin Counts, which is another demo account that we use. And I can instantly flip back and forth between these, right?
Well, that's actually nothing new to Windows. We've had multiple user accounts in many versions of Windows. What makes Windows 8 different from those is the addition of what's called the Microsoft ID.
Okay, do explain.
Okay, well, the Microsoft ID is not, it's not like Microsoft sends you an ID card and that's your Microsoft ID. All it really is, guys, is a functional email address, just one that works, okay?
So it doesn't have to be a Microsoft Hotmail account.
It could be a
or
Gmail or
Skype
Yahoo,
account.
whatever you want,
Okay.
okay? So now with that, and this is kind of important because what this does is it gives you something to tie your settings to. So I don't know about you, but I no longer just have one computer.
Right.
I have multiple computers.
Right.
And it's important whenever I grab whatever device that the experience is the same across all of them, so that my start screen looks the same, my desktop wallpaper looks the same, my lock screen looks the same, my whole experience, my email, everything is similar.
With Windows 8.1 too, this was a major change in that before they would sync some settings, but now really almost all settings come across.
Yeah.
My colors, my tiles, my apps. Doesn't matter, whatever I do when I log in under my account, which you pointed out could be any email, it's just got to be a valid email. You sign it up for when you install Windows 8.1. It'll ask you, hey, what's your ID, what's your Microsoft account? Create that, and from that point forward, when I log in, it'll always sync. And I use a great example here where I've done traveling before. I've gone over to Istanbul, and you can actually be in a coffee shop in Istanbul or anywhere else in the world.
But not Constantinople.
But not Constantinople. Istanbul is not Constantinople. But anyway, you can be sitting in a coffee shop on someone else's computer, on a terminal. You can log in, and when you log in with your account and ID, it pulls all those features across the web for
So you have that similar experience.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really makes it so much easier. I can't tell you how many times I troubleshoot someone else's computer, and I sit down, and immediately the icons or tiles are in different places, and the color, it's all crazy. I want to use what I'm familiar with using. And as soon as I log out and you come in behind me and log back in, you get all of yours. Just works great in small offices or shift offices or places where you're sharing devices, but you still want that personalization, customization, and at home with your family. The kids log in, they'll get all their icons and tiles and all their information, and you don't have to see games scattered all over the desktop.
Now, while this is a great experience and I highly recommend it, if for whatever reason you don't want to use a Microsoft ID, you can still skip past that and set up with,
There's no reason not to.
a Bob account
All it
or a
is
TED
an
account
email
or whatever.
account. Right,
Yeah, all
right.
it is an email
Yeah,
address.
it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So the Microsoft ID will really help us. And then there are other personalization options that we might want to get into. So for example, I was looking at Katie and I see she's got a picture here, and I can go in and say, I want to change this picture. Maybe I've got a better photo, or I want a picture of my dog or my house or whatever the case may be. This is where I can go set this information. And one thing I wanted to point out here, Brett, is you see this thing that says sign in options.
Yeah.
When I click on this, this tells me how I'm going to sign into the Windows operating system. And in 8.1, we have the ability, 8.0 had this too.
So you get three options. You got a password, you got a picture password, and you have a PIN. Now, picture password is
Pretty whippy.
cool. Yeah,
pretty
it's
whippy.
whippy.
So let's show that.
Okay.
But the important point is they all work. I don't have to pick one or the other. I can have them all evoked. And if I'm using the picture password and I forget how I did it, or I forget my PIN, or I forget whatever, I always have another option.
So it's like a choice, right? Kind of like keyboard, mouse, or touch. You have password, PIN, or picture password.
You got it.
Okay.
So here's my picture password. I'm going to go in and change this picture password. It wants to make sure that I am who I say I am, so it will ask me, and I have to remember.
Do you know Katie's password?
I may know Katie's password. Let's see.
Should I get a drum roll on this?
I'm not sure this is going to work. It worked!
It worked!
Holy smokes. I
Okay.
almost forgot what I put Katie's password to be. But in this case, because I don't ever want to forget what it might be, I want to set this picture, or any picture that I want. I don't have to use this one. I use picture of anything I want. But I'm going to use this picture in this particular case. And now what it's asking me is, it says in 3 steps, using lines, circles, or dots, point to something on here in an order that makes sense to me, and it'll log it as a deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the first one, and I'm going to circle her eyeball here.
Okay.
And you'll notice that it verified that. Now what do you want to do for number 2?
How about let's see, how about the tip of her nose?
Tip of her nose. So we touch the tip of her nose, right?
Okay.
And then the last one is I'm going to do one line across the teeth.
Okay.
Okay? And now it confirms. It says, okay, I got it, but let's make sure you got it same place. So Here we go. Circle the eye. Says, yep, I understand that. Tip of the nose. Yep. Line across the teeth. And there you go. And it now says that password has been changed.
So now that doesn't replace the password that you just used. That's just another option.
I still have my PIN. I still have my password, my regular login password, but now I also have a picture password. And so if I'm back out on the desktop and I go to here and I say I want to go ahead and lock my keyboard, okay? So I'm going out to lunch. I don't want anyone to bother with me. This is the same as, by the way, a Windows L key.
And actually, but this is the screen that we're looking at here. This lock screen, excuse me, has a lot of valuable information. You can actually customize this one as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to
You'll
point
notice
that
too.
out.
Yeah, we have a wireless access. I have my battery life here. Got time.
And actually,
and
certain
else.
apps will propagate and put other information out there as well.
So when I click on this, it's now asking me, hey, what password do you want to use? You have a picture password set. You notice I also have this switch to password. So I go back to the old way.
So if you forget the lines and gestures you
And
made,
if I set the PIN, I would also see the option for the PIN password.
Okay.
So in this case, I'm just going to do the circle. I'm going to do the nose, and I do across the teeth, and boom, I've just logged in.
That was
And
fast
set
too. We just popped right in
Very,
there.
very fast and easy. But if for whatever reason I forget what order, again, I always have those fallback mechanisms.
So the chances are of you forgetting the picture and the PIN and the password are probably pretty remote. So you have a good chance of getting into your machine.
Right. What other kind of personalization can I do? Can I change the colors of this? Can I change the schemes? What else can I do?
You know, all of that stuff is available in the PC settings.
Okay.
You have tons of customization there. So if we go in, I swiped in the charms bar. You can, again, that's swiping from the right-hand side or Windows key C, and I go to settings. One thing we didn't talk about earlier is in the lower right-hand corner, you see change PC settings. Now, that doesn't look like a button, but in fact, it will take you into the settings. And we see here, we'll cover a lot of these
in the last section.
Yeah, in the last section.
We'll talk about the settings management. But this is for customization. I can go in and change all this information.
Change
as
all
I
the,
want to.
we already showed this, that you can change in the account. You also go in and change in like for instance the lock screen, which is the screen that you showed when you locked the machine. We could choose a nice scape of Seattle. You could choose this image. You could choose a variety of images, or you could choose one of your own. I'll just go with this one. You can also see the lock screen apps that you can add, where if they were going to have data, it would pop it on
This
that
is
lock
really,
screen.
really cool.
Yeah.
So, for example, Skype is now a lock screen app. And in previous versions, when you got a call and you had your machine locked, you could not answer the call with Skype unless you unlock the machine first. And oftentimes you're trying desperately to get it unlocked and you miss the call.
So that's the equivalent of being in the bathtub when the phone's ringing, right?
Exactly.
So you have to get to it and
Which
try it.
always happens.
Exactly.
But in this case, Skype now by default will add it into this. But I can add in my own applications that I want to make available via the lock screen.
Sure.
To either give information on the lock screen or have me be able to evoke it. And I could just simply, we're not going to set this up, but just show you, I can hit the plus key. It'll show me different apps that are already tailored to work on that start screen. I can write my own apps and have them extended out through here. And it really gives me the option to make it more functional for me to use.
And in addition to that, you have really a lot of variety to go in and choose these different things. You can choose your various displays, etc., all of these. But I don't want to get too far into this because we have a whole section on settings.
Okay.
But you do have a tremendous amount of customization from the standpoint of setting up your user and how you want to interact with that.
Okay, beautiful. So what we wanted to talk...
you know what? Before I forget.
Yep.
One thing that I did want to make sure, and I know that this is something that
Chubby finger.
actually it was you bumping into me, but I'll blame you for it. So the other piece of this that I wanted to point out is while Windows 8 does offer a variety of things to customize, you still have the traditional ways of setting your background, choosing themes, etc. And I simply right-clicked on the desktop or pressed and held with my finger to get the personalization menu. So all of those options are still there. I can still go and get more themes online.
Mouse
and
pointers,
et cetera.
change your desktop icons. I know there's a lot of people out there that have disabilities, either hearing disabilities or seeing disabilities, or maybe we have parents that have issues. Boy, they've done a lot in Windows 8.1 in particular to have the screen talk to you, to put in magnifiers, to put in high contrast screens that make it easier for people who have some of these disabilities to read the screen and to utilize their PC. So we'll save that for another time, but just to let you know that's there. In the next section, we'll really dive in, or in the last section, we'll really dive into the search. And once we get into search, we'll discover a lot of these options just by typing in disabilities or all the different information that we're interested in looking at. Okay, so let's summarize real quick. It was a pretty short chapter, but pretty important. You can go full customization, and believe me, we're just scratching the surface on what you can do here. We wanted to show you just a couple of cool things, how to boot directly to the desktop. We wanted to show you how you set the transparent background, change the colors, change the wallpaper. We showed you about the MSID and the logins, and then how you can set your picture password or your other information, and really personalize the environment for you to work the way you want it to work.
And not forgetting that all those personalization features that were there in previous versions of Windows are still there in Windows 8 and Windows 8.1.
Good point. So we're going to go into section 4, which will talk about the difference between apps and applications. We hope you stick around.